All right, it looks like we are now streaming. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay, awesome. First and foremost, good afternoon, everyone. It is so wonderful to see you all. Welcome back for our monthly meeting for Finance and Appropriations Committee. I am the co-chair, Mr. Cole, and always excited to have you on deck here. I wanted to get off with a roll call, if we may.
Certainly. Board Member Brown,
Yes, I'm here.
Board Member Cole,
Present.
Mr. Green,
Here.
Ms. Johnson,
Here.
Mr. Jordan, Mr. Miller,
Here.
and Board Member Ragland.
Here.
You have a
All
quorum?
right. Wonderful. Thank you so much for that. So today is going to be a fairly short but working meeting here, where we're going to have a number of discussions, particularly around a few of our agenda items that first will approve the minutes, secondly walk through budget requests, some that are focused on some really exciting things that I'm excited for us to be funding and moving forward. I really am, and excited to have a very talented staff on board to talk to us about that. Of course, early childhood education is also up. And then we'll go into our monthly forecast report, or our monthly financial report, excuse me, and then close out with finance and appropriation, a new upcoming meeting. Is there a motion to, first of all, begin the meeting and approve the minutes?
I'll move it. Jordan.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second.
Board Member Cole,
Yes.
Mr. Green,
Yes.
Ms. Johnson,
Yes.
Mr. Miller,
Yes.
Board Member Ragland,
Yes.
and Board Member Brown.
Yes.
All right,
That motion
awesome.
carries.
With that in mind, we can then move on to budget requests for those presentations. Floor is yours. The first is for our world language middle school.
Okay, I'll start this off real quick, Chairman Cole. I don't want to set the stage too high here, but I'm going to take a moment before they start. So we will not start the timer yet. But the group that you're about to hear from has done an absolutely amazing job of bringing academic planning and financial planning all together. The work they did is a role model. It's a best practice for exactly how this is supposed to work. So I want to say that because you didn't see all the work behind the scenes. You didn't, I think as Stan said before, you didn't get to see the sausage being made, but you're going to get to taste the product here because this team is dynamite. They're high energy. They've got all the data behind it. They're going to tell you why we need this program and how we're moving forward and how the kids are going to be prepared for success in the future. It's amazing. So with that, I set the stage high. I'm going to turn it over to Principal Santos and her team and let them have their moment and just blow your socks off.
All right, thank you for that.
Some great partners. The Children's Day, again, that is something that the principals of all of our schools take under.
Mr. Brown, can you please give me access to share my screen?
Yep, Dr. McNally, can we get her on board? And good to see you, Dr. McNally.
Excellent and amazing.
All right.
Job making that a staple within.
Board Member Cole, did you mind if I introduced everyone while we're waiting for this transition?
Please feel free. And I think I hear some background. If there's somebody who can mute their phone or their device, that'll be awesome.
That's an excellent point.
Okay, this evening, we are proud to share the programming needs for the new dual language middle school. Leading the presentation will be Principal Sandra Santos, but she is here supported by all of her colleagues and her principals from the feeder pattern and the feeder schools. Director Derek Vickroy, Principal Emma Corbin, Principal Angela Sweeney, Principal Zach Riggs, and from the central office team, we have joining us Director Michael Sain, Dr. Liz McNally, our Principal Leadership Coach, and Dr. Keith Harris, and also Ashley Beasley, also representing from one of the feeder pattern schools. So just know that this work that we're presenting has been a collaborative effort across campuses, across departments, across teams, across all teams in central office have at some point touched this work and provided input and feedback on the direction of the program. But we are certainly pleased that everything has come together very nicely. And this afternoon, you'll have an opportunity to see the final product. So without further ado, I'll turn it over again to Principal Santos to share where we've landed.
All right, Principal Santos, buenos dias. Are we able to share the screen?
No,
Still?
we still are not able to share the screen. And with those wonderful introductions, I am really ready to get started.
Go right ahead. Well,
I need to wait to get my sheet. I don't have any share screen capability at this point.
okay.
And neither does Dr. McNally.
So I
Try
think
now.
that's
Try now.
We're good?
Good?
awesome.
All right, thank you. Thank you for inviting us to share our proposal for the new World Language Middle School. We welcome you to join the movement. English language learners are the fastest growing school-age population in the United States and consistently comprise nearly 20% of the student population in Columbus City schools. Mirroring a growing demand across the country, the creation of this middle school in Central Ohio adds a robust, targeted pathway towards learners graduating with not only the seal of biliteracy, but also college credit and internship opportunities in the high school years. This pathway will enhance the talent entering the diverse workforce that continues to expand in the Columbus region. This school will incorporate the two immersion elementary programs, Columbus Spanish Immersion Academy and Equal Kenwood, with ELL students identified as newcomers into a welcoming multilingual middle school. Rather than simply co-located, they are fully and seamlessly integrated. This pathway will create bilingual, biliterate, and successful students who will enhance our Columbus community, branching out to Ohio and around the world. In February 2019, the Columbus Board of Education approved a resolution regarding Recommendation 3 of the Facilities Task Force that directed the administration to create a middle and high school immersion program to form an immersion feeder pattern. In addition, the board directed the administration to co-locate grades 6 through 8 of Columbus Global Academy to 330 East Dominion Boulevard, the new home of the World Language Middle School. Based on our research and consultations with experts in dual language, immersion programming, and ESL support models, we are requesting approval for the full integration of these 3 learning communities in grades 6 through 8 into the World Language Middle School. To achieve this new transformational model of multilingual education in line with the charge from the board as a response to the needs of the students, families, and the Columbus community, the proposed budget totals $3.5 million, nearly $3 million of which will go directly towards supporting our new staffing needs of 30.5 certified, 11 classified, and 7.4 support staff. To achieve our goals of seamless integration for all learners in line with our mission and vision, we will prioritize the hiring of multilingual and multicultural staff for all positions, who ideally are not only able to proficiently speak an additional language to English, but also are TESOL endorsed, ensuring that they have foundations and understandings to experience all of our multilingual students. We aim for multilingualism across positions as we recognize that our students need to see representation of multilingual people in professional positions who can directly support them as they navigate multilingualism, both locally and ultimately as a part of the global community. These positions will be filled by a combination of existing staff and new staff that are eager to join the movement. Updated furniture for all classrooms and library have also been included in our overall budget, as have updates to facilities such as whiteboards to replace old chalkboards, wire coverings throughout the hallways, and other much needed facility updates. Library books have also been included in this proposal. A detailed line item spreadsheet is available upon request. As we prepare this world-class program with cutting-edge equipment, the building is not currently equipped to meet the needs of our 21st century learner. This proposed budget includes new technology for all classrooms and the media center to ensure our goal of preparing our students for a global and international community. enhanced equipment in the form of updated technology like the ClearTouch devices, a student-led new technology will be in every learning space. This device has applications in several different languages to assist our dual language students in their target language of Spanish and French, as well as support our ELL students in their target language of English. As we create opportunities for our students to partner with sister schools and international curriculum from around the world. With our students developing multilingualism at the core of our approach, we have created a state-of-the-art program that will be a national model. We are very excited to share the multiple flexible pathways to college and career readiness available for all of our students, regardless of home languages in grades 6th, 7th, and 8th. In the first pathway, students who are seeking to ultimately earn a seal of biliteracy and/or international diploma will receive core science, math, and English content curriculum in English. Social studies and the elective cultural media studies will be offered in Spanish and French for increased opportunities for students to participate in target or heritage language curriculum. Our second pathway is for students who, rather than focusing on one language and following it through graduation, would prefer to explore multiple languages throughout their schooling experience and are aiming for a traditional diploma. These students have the opportunity to flexibly move in and out of the seal biliteracy and international diploma pathway each year as they grow and learn what areas of curriculum and electives are most exciting to them, or perhaps explore other seals and specialized programs. Students who are not yet able to fully participate in courses in English will have access to sheltered instruction core courses as they transition into courses in English with ESL supports. Finally, every student will have the opportunity to engage in fully integrated unified arts, electives, and extracurricular activities, from courses like computer awareness and guitar to drama and band, soccer to cross country. We are excited to see our students excel and lead both inside and outside of the classroom. Thank you for allowing us to share this exciting new middle school model with you, and we look forward to answering any questions you may have regarding the movement.
Thank you so much for that presentation. Committee, is there any questions at this point? Mr. Ragland?
Sorry.
No questions. I was going to say, great job. It's very exciting. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I did not have a question either, but wanted to congratulate you, Ms. Santos, and your team for putting together not only this presentation, but for taking on this initiative. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Ragland.
I did have a quick question. The languages that you picked, are there a predominant number of students? I know there's probably a large number of Spanish-speaking students. Are there a large number of French students? And then how many students, and maybe you covered that, are going to be served in this initiative?
So we are projecting 420 students to be served. For Spanish, we have 61% of our ELL learners that are Spanish speaking. We also have Ecole Kenwood, that is our elementary immersion program, that we wanted to make sure that they had a place to call home as well. So that's why we decided on Spanish and French. And Columbus Spanish Immersion is our other feeder school. So we wanted to make sure that we brought these three learning communities together and make a national model. And I'm very, very excited for the movement.
And again, this will be what grade band? Can you share that grade band again?
Yes, 6th, 7th, and 8th.
All right, 6th, 7th, and 8th. So our Columbus North International School will be going back to a traditional 9 to 12.
That is correct.
Okay, awesome, awesome.
When would this program begin?
21-22 school year.
Okay.
And trust me, we are very, very excited. So there'll be much more marketing regarding that and when this program is going to start. And
Madam Corbin, could you just talk quickly about our Francophone community? There's a pretty big one here in Central Ohio, but more specifically Columbus. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure, thank you, Mr. Cole. Ecole Kenwood has been around since 1987. Our population continues to grow and diversify as we have an influx of students from all over the world. We have a very large Senegalese population here in the city of Columbus, and now Algerian, and they are bringing us their kiddos. In addition to that, we have close ties with Ohio State's language departments, and we do a lot of research on language development and acquisition with them. We are the birthplace of many of the great French teachers around the state of Ohio, thanks to our partnerships with Ohio State, Denison, and more.
Thank you for that, Dr. Corbin. So now you got a bit of a background. I hope that helped answer your question a little more, Mr. Miller, about the community that we're serving, and that a lot of us traditionally think of French as one of those kind of Latin languages, if you will, that is fairly useless, and it really isn't. We have a very, very strong African community here. That's not just Senegalese. They're from various parts of West Africa that are also Francophone. So wanted to share that. All right. If there's not anything else, we'll move forward to our early childhood education presentation.
Mr. Chairman, just a minute. Scott,
Yes.
do we need a motion on these either collectively or individually to send forward to the board for further approval?
I
Yeah,
thought
I
we
would
could
say-
do it collectively, but
Okay, whatever. I just want to make sure we didn't miss that part.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I was going to say a point of clarification on this request, because this is the school is going to start next school year. The personnel piece will become part of the FY22 budget, but the stuff, the purchase services, supplies, the technology curriculum, those are going to be kind of treated as startup funds. So you will see that in a future amended appropriations for FY21, so we can get the things ordered right away, so that we can have that in place before staff and students show up. So you're going to see it in a two-phase approach. So I just want to make sure everyone understands that.
no, thank you so much for that reminder for me and that point of clarification for the committee that yes, we are approving in advance about 4 or 5 different categories that are going to fund this, and the personnel piece, because we always understand how fluid that is. We're looking at making sure we appropriate that appropriately in the future.
Great.
Any questions?
Yeah, and Mr. Chairman, that's just another example of, as Scott mentioned early on, about how this planning and budgeting are supposed to work hand in hand, so that when they're ready to order in anticipation of the opening of school and begin the employment process, we've already got the financial side of things in place, and we don't have to rush back and hold off doing something that sometimes when that planning gets out of whack. So this is going very smoothly from our perspective.
Awesome, and I thank you again for that leadership. Again, if there aren't any other comments or questions, we can move on to our early childhood education presentation.
Okay. And with that, I will turn it over to Dr. Breeden so she can present the request for the early childhood instructional assistants.
Hello, good afternoon, board members, Superintendent Dixon, and other parties that are here. We're very excited to bring this to you because it has a very important need that needs to be addressed. You know, I'm relatively new, so I may not have all the background straight, but generally what we had asked for, as I understand it in the spring, is 12 instructional assistant positions. And that was cut back to 4. And in a way there's some of that's okay because of COVID, we have not been in classrooms. But the ODE Department of Education requires that when students are in the classroom, there are 2 adults in the room. So we have 5 classrooms that need to add an instructional assistant. 3 of those classrooms need the instructional assistant because they are new this year. The other 2, we're not sure why we don't have the positions for them, but we need them because we will not be ready to open our classrooms and be in compliance and keep our rating without these 5 positions.
Thank you for that, Dr. Breeden. Is there a visual presentation at all by chance?
The only visual presentation is the request that we made that is attached in board docs.
Okay, thank you. So you don't have to show, that's not necessary to show for this? All right.
No, not really. It gives a lot of background, which may be useful to you and we'd be happy to talk about, but no, it's just I didn't want to compete against the world language people. It's bad enough I'm going after them, but no, it's just these 5A, 5IA, so that we can keep our step up to quality ratings, which are very, very critical to our preschool program, and make sure we're following best practices.
Absolutely, absolutely. Are there any questions about this need for our 5 instructional assistants? And if Ms. Carson or someone from our OPSI is on the call or on the Zoom, is she on? I want to make sure that we give not only thanks to our administration for, again, making this critical and important investment in early childhood education. I think in so many different ways, when the Step Up to Quality piece came, we actually were quite proactive in development and execution of that, and preparing not only our staff, but also even folks throughout the community who wanted this opportunity to, I'll use a new word, upskill themselves in early childhood education. We made that opportunity available to the community as well, historically. So excited about this opportunity. Thank you. And also thank you to our OPSI family for, being a critical part of asset building in our classrooms and in our communities. So thank you. With that in mind, I'd like to ask if someone can put a motion on the table to approve both the world language school, middle school, and the early childhood education appropriations that are in the budget request today.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make that motion.
All right, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Awesome.
Mr. Green,
Yes. Sorry.
Ms. Johnson,
Yes.
Mr. Miller,
Yes.
Board Member Ragland,
Yes.
Board Member Brown,
Yes.
Board Member Cole,
Yes.
and that motion carried.
Very good. Wonderful, wonderful. Congratulations, and let's take Columbus City Schools to the next level of being not just a model for here in the state of Ohio, but the entire country. I've had the opportunity to see different places throughout the country, and more particularly with our immersion language space. And there are not a lot of places throughout the country, big or small districts, that can compare to the work that we're doing. So this is a beautiful experience as a parent, a former parent of immersion school children. This is something super. I've waited for this, and I know so many other parents have. Thank you, and thank you for that early childhood piece as well. All right.
Mr. Chairman, you're being a bit modest, and I want to thank you and congratulate you for your hard work on this for a number of years. I mean, I think it goes without saying, not just being a parent of emerging students, but you have been advocating for this for quite some time and been very open about our needs to be leaders in this area. And so while I understand your humility, I want to thank you for this effort, and it's a long-standing effort. And so congratulations to you. You are of this team as far as I am concerned. And so thank you for everything that you've done to get us to where we are today in your leadership, brother.
Yeah, I thank you so much for that. I'm not that popular, less than $1, but I appreciate you. I thank you so much. All right. Moving forward, we'll go to our monthly financial report. Mr. Treasurer.
Okay, thank you very much. This is the monthly financial report for November, and this will go to the Board of Education next Tuesday on the 15th. Through November, revenues continue to run above plan and expenditures continue to run under plan. The ending cash balance, as a result of the combination of revenues being almost $11 million above plan and expenditures running about $38 million under plan, the ending cash balance for November was about $49 million ahead of plan. The highlights for revenue for this month, State revenue year to date is about 940,000 below plan. You'll see later in this presentation that during the first 4 months of this fiscal year, the actual monthly cash flow more closely followed an equal monthly amount model rather than what our historical cash flow for state funding might indicate. So I'll be showing some data on that here in a minute. This month, though, there was a blip in the revenue, and we had a one-time payment of almost $807,000 related to the final number 2 calculation for last fiscal year. And we also received the first payment of casino revenue, about $660,000, and those two combined to, on a month-to-date base, create about a $947 favorable variance on the month to the plan, and actually about $1 million against that equal monthly amount model. Other revenue continues to run above plan, now year to date about $6.9 million. And again, in that category, pilots lead the way at about $6.6 million above plan. Just a graphical representation of where we are. You can see again, property taxes, our major source of revenue, running above plan, state revenue pretty much right on target, and other revenues also running above plan. Going a little more into this monthly revenue for state aid and its behavior. Again, you can see the little, what I call a blip in the graph here for actual revenues. It jumps up for the month of November related to those two payments I described. I did this month in the MD&A add a commentary at the end of the report on monthly state aid and these adjustments. We've received 2 adjustments, final number, well, they call them final number 1 and final number 2, mostly related to final enrollment numbers being calculated on the deduct side. But final number 1 was a $654,000 reduction in our net state aid through an increase in deductions. That began with the September number 2 payment, was being spread over the remaining 19 bi-monthly payments. The final number 2 payment, which began this month or was received this month, is a favorable or positive $807,000 payment. Again, an adjustment in deductions, and that was distributed in one lump sum payment to the district. ODE has a practice where when there are adjustments in your state aid calculation to the detriment of the district, that is, it reduces your net state aid, they take those reductions and spread them out over time till the end of the fiscal year. However, when they do a recalculation and your net state aid goes up, they catch you up all in one payment. So you'll see in the MD&A an explanation of how that's calculated and how that showed up in some of the state school funding reports. The net of those 2 payments is that our net state aid through a reduction in deductions increased a whopping $153,000. So they balanced each other out, and we ended up a little bit to the good. But you'll see those calculations in the MD&A. This is the year-to-date variance, again, against the plan that we have in place, as well as the equal payment flow. And you can see that we jumped up here in the month of November, reducing the negative variance against the plan, but we're now above plan on the against the equal monthly flow model. Going over to the all other revenues category, besides state aid and property taxes, you'll see here that in this category, property taxes are unchanged from last month. They still are about $381,000 under plan. The other revenues, which includes pilots, that's at about 6.9 million over. And again, pilots, 6.6 million above plan, are the major contributor there. Other finances, other financing sources are running about 627,000 under plan. And just a reminder about our heat map that we're using now to display variances. One of the things I wanted to point out, because depending upon the dollar amount of a particular budget line item, the impact of a variance on the dollar amount versus the percent variance can get a little bit distorted, again, depending on the size of the budget line item. So if you look at what's on plan is plus or minus 2% and plus or minus about $1 million. And that really would yield an on-plan indicator for both dollar amount and percent variance for a $50 million budget line. And as the dollar amount of that line is more or less than $50 million, it tends to swing that percent variance indicator a little bit more wildly than the dollar variance one. So if the line item dollar amount for the estimate or actual is less than $50 million, it's more likely that the percent variance will vary to a larger degree than the dollar variance. So if you look at the property tax allocation, which is about $17 million with a $381,000 variance, it yields an on-plan dollar amount heat indicator, but a modestly unfavorable percent heat indicator variance, and vice versa when the items get much, much larger. So I just wanted to talk about how that's skewed, and you'll see that in some of this upcoming data. Looking at revenue, on a year-to-date basis, all the indicators are favorable except for line 206 in terms of a dollar amount. And that line 206, all of the financing sources, has refund of prior year expenditures. And this has to do with the refund from the county auditor. Interestingly enough, you remember this discussion, 2 years ago when we received a refund, we treated it as revenue. So it would be in this line as a refund of prior year expenditures. Last year when we received it, because it was off of that 3-year cycle, it then came to us on a 1-year cycle. We felt it was much closer to the expenditures that were related to the refund, and therefore we recorded it as a current year reduction of an expenditure. It ended up on the other side of the ledger. We had decided after that, because it kind of distorted the trend analysis, that we would henceforth record these refunds as revenue. But unfortunately, this fiscal year, the refund we got was directly related to the August settlement. So now we have no choice but to record it as a reduction of an expenditure. So if all that accounting jargon and kind of monkeying around didn't drive you crazy, just understand that this unfavorable dollar amount and very unfavorable percent variance is simply because where we're going to code this refund has changed from a revenue item to an expense item. Other than that, everything is very much on plan. Moving on to expenditures, personnel was under plan this month by about 3.7 million. That's 1.6 million in salary and wages and 2.1 million for benefits. Year to date, we're looking at 14 million under in salaries and wages and about 2 million under in benefits. And I'm going to talk about this a little bit further as I make some comparisons to our expenditures this year versus last year at this time. Purchase services, 2.3 million under plan month to date. Professional technical services, property services, internet access, and tuition are the top 4 year-to-date variances. And those range from about 1.6 million to 2.5 million under plan on a year-to-date basis. Only one line item is running over plan, which is telephone services, and that's running over plan at 233,000. All in all, 13 million under plan for purchase services through November. The charter and STEM and scholarship deductions, 664,000 under plan month to date, taking the year-to-date variance down slightly to 14.4 million under plan. Supplies and material continuing to run under plan as well, 1.7 million under plan month to date. So you can see here that now that we're 2.2, we were pretty close to being on plan supplies and materials last month, but now with this month completed, we're at 2.2 million under plan year to date. Software and fuel are the leaders running under at about $1.4 million each. Textbooks and supplies and materials are running about 2 million over plan due to a recent large textbook purchase, which is just actually a timing issue as to when that was made. Capital outlay this month, if you look at the month-to-date numbers, it's actually showing a negative 7 million month-to-date. Again, some more accounting issues coming into play here, and how and where we code certain expenditures. This 7 million is related to the City of Columbus CRF funds, where they shared with us 7.15 million of their CRF monies, coronavirus relief fund monies, to purchase computers. We were running this through the general fund and later found out that the auditor of state wants us to put it over in a separate fund. So we had to back out those expenditures and move them over to the other fund. So it creates a little of an accounting distortion there, but we're going to get it over in the right fund. We had not yet received and recorded all of the revenue from the city on that, so we didn't have to make an adjustment on the revenue side. So when those dollars do come in, we will post them over to that CRF fund. Capital outlay, that's what I was just talking about. That's capital outlay, and that's it for those items on a year-to-date, month-to-date basis. Just graphically, personnel running under, charter under, a little bit closer, and other expenditures now year-to-date. You can see there. When we break out all the others, purchase services is clearly the most significant, running under plan, and capital outlay, as I mentioned, also a pretty good dollar amount running under plan. When we look at these variances in the heat map, you see a lot of green. And as I said, we based the plan on the forecast. We know we'll always, we're highly confident that we'll beat the forecast and come in under on expenditures. So this is not to be, this isn't a surprise. This is what we would expect. All but a few lines are in the on plan or favorable range. The operating transfers out and advances out, lines 5.01 and 5.02 are a good example of that distortion in the percent variance heat map indicator, how you can have a relatively small dollar amount variance, but because of the size of that line item, it creates what appears to be a very unfavorable percent difference. So, for instance, transfers out, that's a $1.5 million line item. It has a $2 million variance. So that $2 million variance is just moderately unfavorable, but at 133% variance, it becomes a very unfavorable variance. So you really have to look at both dollar amount and the percent and the size of that budget line to interpret those variances. Advances out, another good example. It's a $602,000 line with a $300,000 variance. So dollar amount, it's on plan, but variance is 50%. So it looks to be very unfavorable in that case. So just so you can understand how the size of the budget line can impact the directionality of this heat map. So one of the things I wanted to look back, and I have provided in the past a comparison in the MD&A to last year, line item by line item. But I wanted to take a closer look right now and walk you through a couple of comparisons that I find rather interesting. If we start with general property tax, year-to-date last year versus year-to-date this year, we're up about 2.5%. That seems pretty reasonable. The kind of the sister account to that, the property tax allocation, with the dollars we get from the state of Ohio from rollback, right on target. And if you put them together, they're about 6,098,000 over plan, and that's about a 2.3% variance. So very, very, very much to be expected in terms of this year versus last year. State aid, we're running behind where we were this time last year. This is pre and post COVID reduction from the state. So the reduction that they made at the waning months of fiscal year 20 carried forward into fiscal year 21, and it plays out clearly here that we are running behind simply because the annual gross dollar amount of our state aid is less this year than it was in the early stages of last year. Other revenues, as you can see, 8.3 million. You know that there's close to 7 million in pilots that explain that variance. And then these other variances aren't of the magnitude that cause any concern or further investigation. Moving over to expenditures, and I think this is where some of the real interesting comparisons come in. First of all, personnel, salaries and fringe benefits, compared to this time last year on 248 million. These numbers are all in thousands. So on $248 million of expenditures, we're $125,000 ahead of where we are last year. That's largely due to a change in our behavior. Reduced substitute costs and reduced overtime are contributing to that slowdown in that line item. The regular wage line items are performing as we would expect at 3 or 4% above prior years. But it's the sub cost and overtime that have been reduced because of a change in our behavior and being virtual that have held this line at this, virtually the same level as where we were last year. Purchase services, we're running under where we were last year. Almost every line in purchase services is running under where they were last year at this time. You can see charter schools, as we would expect, really no difference in our deductions for charter schools. They keep taking those out, and they are up because we have planned for more expenditures in that area. So that wasn't a surprise. Supplies and materials, this is the textbook purchase, 8.8 million in textbook purchases that did not occur last year at this time. And that explains that jump. The balance of these, to be expected, nothing that caught my attention. I will point out this line, though, however, advances out. And this will be a topic of discussion at Finance Committee in the near future. But these are advances that we make to other funds to assist in cash flow month to month throughout the year. At the end of the year, if those advances aren't returned, they're typically typically go one line up and become a permanent transfer. But this $902,000 advances thus far are primarily related to two funds, Latchkey and WCBE. Latchkey is run as an enterprise, and we're virtual, so there's no revenue source for Latchkey. We'll be talking about that at a later meeting. And WCBE, you've heard reports on WCBE and our financial difficulties there. There's a plan underway, and I'm sure you'll hear we're going to have another report out on that to FAC in the near future. But that's what that difference from last year is. Here's my breakdown on a comparison to last year for specifically breaking out salaries and wages and fringe benefits out of that personnel line. And you can see, as I said, overtime and subs have actually, compared to last year, reduced that overall expenditure. Fringe benefits, many of those line items are tied to the salary and wage lines. They're a percentage, like retirement and Medicare. They're a percentage of the salaries that you pay out. In the medical, in our healthcare costs, we actually had a reduction in our premium beginning in January of 2020. So while they've climbed relative to wages, some of the medical care has gone down. So these are very small increases over last year to this. And I don't know how this will carry itself out through the balance of the year. It depends upon what we do with remaining virtual or going hybrid or going back in person. So just wanted to point that out. I think the comparison to last year, to me, is a lot more interesting and a lot more telling about our behavior than our comparison to plans, since we know our plan is based on the forecast, and we know that we're pretty good at coming in under those forecast numbers. So all in all, revenues are up, expenditures are down. I hope I've done an adequate job of explaining where the variances are. And that, Chairman Cole, concludes my report on the monthly financial report. Be glad to answer any questions committee members have.
Thank you, Mr. Tresser. Thank you so much for that. Are there any questions? Okay. You've done, as always, a wonderful yeoman's and comprehensive job on explaining the monthly financial report. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you very much. And if I could take a point of, I don't know, make a personal comment about our previous presentations. I think that our efforts in the area of foreign language immersion, unfortunately for me, are about 60 years too late. I think this is a great idea, and it would have been great to have had that so that adults of my generation would have been trained to be bilingual. And having lived for a brief time down in the Miami area, if you weren't bilingual in Miami, you did not conduct business. Miami claims to be the portal to the United States for foreign business. And that I know for a fact. While business was conducted in English, when the business meeting stopped, it was Spanish. And so you really needed to be able to speak another language just to relate to those people. So I think this is great. I'm not on the education side, I'm on the finance side, but I'll take the liberty to add my kudos to this program.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Treasurer. Thank you. Some of us are more literate in other ways. So thank you for the acumen, the prowess you bring to the table with the money. If there aren't any other questions or comments, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved, sir.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second.
Ms. Johnson,
Yes.
Mr. Miller. Oh, he left us.
Yep, he got
Right,
off the
he had to
call.
leave us. Board Member Ragland,
Yes.
Board Member Brown,
Yes, thank you.
and Board Member Cole,
Yes.
and Mr. Green.
Yes.
Thank you very much. That motion carried.
All right. In closing, thank you all so much for joining us. Again, you all are doing an outstanding job in some very tough times. And I also extend that not just to the folks who are our day-to-day folks, Dr. Harris, and so many of you, Dr. Sane, so many of you who are in the buildings or out of the buildings on the day-to-day managing and leading, but also my colleagues in arms, my fellow board members of the Board of Education. I always and continue to have the highest regard for the work that we do, and am thankful to be a presence here that's doing something positive for our community at a time of need. So God bless you all. I look forward to seeing you hopefully soon. Have a most wonderful holiday, everyone. And please, by all means, stay safe and healthy.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Good night.
Night.